Okay, so our book goes in chapter one. She even goes into a little bit of a history here between of how human animal studies developed as a field. So we she mentions both Peter Singer and Tom Regan as being kind of some of the folks who've written important text that kind of gave way to this field of human animal studies and animal rights law and that sort of thing. So just real briefly, this leaves out a lot of folks. In fact, these are two white men, and there are plenty of Alice Walker being an example where she was writing about animal issues. There are plenty of non-white contributors to the field, and probably there are more women scholars in the field than there are men. Peter Singer is a philosopher. He's still alive today. He's, I think, retired from Princeton University. Tom Regan died less than 10 years ago and was a philosopher at North Carolina State University. Both of these two authors approach human animal studies from kind of a humanist perspective. And a humanist perspective is a way of knowing about the world that comes from the Renaissance and Enlightenment thinking. Without getting too far into the philosophical foundations here, just know that humanism captures the belief that humans are exceptional, different than all the other animals, and that humans, through their practice of science and technology and reason and rational thinking, will be able to solve any problems. So the notion of progress, that society gets better and better and better and civilization gets better and better and better, is rooted in a humanist belief that humans are exceptional and can solve any problem that comes their way. So if you are a humanist right now in 2021, you're banking on the belief that human technology, human science will solve climate change before it's too late. That's a humanist point of view. Now, the field of human animal studies has begun to question that and say that puts humans much too at the center of the world, and that we really need to get a bigger sense of we, because humans are not the only occupant. We're not we're not the center of the ecological world on planet Earth. That humanism has kind of failed us in some ways. So another way of thinking about this just quickly is that while historically we have anthropomorphized, and we talked about this in our discussion board post as far as how Alice Walker anthropomorphizes the horse and how Sedaris anthropomorphizes the fox, giving them human characteristics. Historically, because we've come from this tradition of humanism, to anthropomorphize something is to help it become more human-like. And this has been done to humans, right? So there were humans that we thought were more, that we spoke of. And when I say we, I'm talking about this white European Enlightenment perspective. There are people who were, who in order to include them in society, we had to stop talking about Native Americans as if they were beast and wild and primitive, and begin talking about them as if they were smart and rational and thoughtful. We had to stop talking about women as if they had no capacity for reason and they were completely just emotional beings, to talking about them from a perspective that would give them more what we called human characteristics. So we get into this more when we get to chapter 2 and 3 of the book, but essentially to grant someone human characteristic is to elevate them in the world, and to describe someone or a group of people as animal-like, pigs, beasts of burden, horses, workhorses. To describe groups of people in that way is to diminish them. So that's part of what has happened as we've created a more human-centric way of looking at the world. So there's a lot of questions. The takeaway here is there's a lot of questions about whether human-animal studies is a way to take humans out of the center of the world and understand ourselves as more coexisting and working with a much wider field of understanding. So here we get into pages 15 and 16. How do we define animal? There's a problem of definition and language here. How is human being defined? How is animal being defined? And what makes an animal and a human a human? Because this is the way we typically think about it does not reflect a scientific understanding. Scientific understanding, we know that humans are categorized as a mammal and are categorized as an animal. So we are animals, but we tend to talk about humans as if they are exceptional and as if they transcend this category of animal. So calling animals animals when in fact they should at least, very least, be defined as other animals. This is why I get into the language here a little bit of non-human animals, because that's more of a parallel category. Humans and non-human animals is more of an accurate way of saying it than humans and animals. We must at very least understand that we're part of what keeps non-human animals subjugated. All right, so those are the main ideas that I wanted to share with you from chapter 1. We're going to get more into these ideas in chapters 2 and 3. But here just to kind of recap, we've learned a little bit about the scope of what's involved in human-animal studies. We've, let me go out of share screen and just talk to you for a second. We've also began to understand that critical animal studies is a subfield of human animal studies, and critical animal studies, they have a clear political agenda to end the exploitation and oppression of animals. And then we've begun to explore this notion of a humanist tradition that we're coming from that centers and holds humans as exceptional and different from any other form of animal life. And then we get to this question of kind of sorry. I've lost my screen. Give me just a second. Exit. Now my cat has joined me on my computer. Okay, let's just do it this way since he wants to be part of it. This video has now gone in 20 minutes, and I apologize. We're supposed to do short videos. The last thing we'll say then is we've also begun to understand how I think in the book it says comparing, let's see if I can find it. Yes, to say human animal is about as coherent as saying carrots and vegetables. Carrots are a type of vegetable. They're not parallel. So human and animal is not a parallel structure of a phrase. So that's frequently why we'll hear human, non-human animal. All right, that's all I've got for now. Take care.